All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on CEORater, a platform that's all about answering one huge question. Is a CEO actually effective? Let's dive into exactly how they figure that out.
This is really the big question, isn't it? For anyone with skin in the game, from a board member to a regular investor, how do you really know if the person leading the company is delivering real, tangible value?
So at its heart, CEORater has this one super clear guiding principle. A CEO's number one job is to beat the market, and everything else they do is built on top of this foundation.
Okay, so if we're going to grade a CEO fairly, we need to start with the raw numbers, right? It all kicks off with one key idea, measuring their outperformance against the market.
And the main yardstick for that is something called total shareholder return, or TSR for short. And listen, this is really important. It's not just about the stock price climbing. It also includes any dividends paid out. So you're getting a complete picture of what an investor actually walked away with.
Now, a CEO's performance doesn't just exist in a bubble, right? We have to compare it to something. CEORater pits a CEO's TSR directly against the S&P 500's return using the SPY ETF as the benchmark, and they do it for the exact same time period the CEO was at the helm.
So how do they figure out if they beat the market? It's actually super simple. You just take the CEO's stock return and subtract the market's return. If you get a positive number, boom, that's alpha. That means they beat the market. If it's negative, well, they underperformed.
All right, so we've got that raw outperformance number. But what do you do with it? Let's see how CEORater transforms that raw data into their first big metric, the AlphaScore.
So what is the AlphaScore? Think of it this way. It answers the question, okay, this CEO beat the market by X%. But how does that stack up against every other CEO in the S&P 500? It's basically a percentile rank. A score of 90 is huge. It means they did better than 90% of their peers.
Okay, so how do they actually get to that number? It's a two-part process. First, they rank the CEO's total outperformance over their entire time in the job. Second, they rank the average annual outperformance. Then, they just average those two rankings together, and that gives you the final AlphaScore. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, great. We have a performance grade. But that brings up a really important question, right? It's one thing to get fantastic returns, but what did it cost? How much did shareholders have to pay for that performance?
And that's where the CompScore comes into play. See, this one isn't about how well the stock did. It's all about efficiency. It gives the CEO a letter grade, A through F, based on how much value they created for every single dollar they were paid.
Yeah, it's all about getting the most bang for your buck. If a CEO pulls in amazing returns on a pretty reasonable salary, they're going to get an A. But if another CEO delivers just so-so results with a gigantic pay package, that's a one-way ticket to an F.
So let's recap. We've got performance, which is the AlphaScore. We've got efficiency, which is the CompScore. Now for the grand finale. Let's see how they blend these two together to create the big one, the flagship metric, the CEORater score.
So the final score is a weighted average. The AlphaScore, that's the pure performance, carries the most weight, making up 60% of the final grade. Then you've got the CompScore, the efficiency piece, which accounts for the other 40%. And this really goes back to that core principle we talked about at the beginning. Performance is king, but how much you pay for it is still incredibly important.
So here's the formula in black and white. You take the AlphaScore, multiply it by 60%, and add that to the CompScore, multiply by 40%. This is what gives you that really balanced, holistic view. I mean, think about it. A CEO with an incredible AlphaScore of, say, 95, but who gets an F on compensation, might actually be a riskier long-term bet than a CEO with a solid 80 AlphaScore and an A for being paid fairly.
Now, to make that math work, you obviously can't use letter grades, so the CompScore letters are converted into numbers. An A becomes a 95, a B is an 85, and it goes all the way down the scale from there.
And once all that math is done, and you have that final CEORater score, this is what it all means. Anything 85 or higher is absolutely exceptional. A score in the 70s to low 80s is still really strong. And, well, anything below 55, that's a clear signal of underperformance when compared to their S&P 500 peers.
Okay, so we've gone through the scores, the math, the whole methodology, but let's get practical. Who is actually using this information, and why is it so powerful?
Well, this kind of objective data is a total game changer for a lot of people. Big institutional investors use it for their research. Retail investors like you and me can use it for due diligence.
Boards of directors lean on it to help make compensation decisions, and even executive recruiters use it to find the best of the best.
So what does it cost to get access to all this data? It's actually pretty simple. The pricing is set at just $99 a month per user.
But here's the crazy part. Because the platform covers every single CEO in the S&P 500, when you break it down, that comes out to just 19 cents per CEO. I mean, that is an unbelievable amount of insight for that price.
And that brings us to one last, really important question to think about, especially if you're a long-term investor. Now that you know how the scores work, what's more valuable to you? A CEO who has one spectacular sky-high score, or one who is just consistently strong, year in and year out? That's the kind of strategic thinking this data really helps you unlock.